Hello, welcome to the Ditton YouTube channel, where usually I discuss various aspects of speakers, but today I'm going to talk about headphones. I did a video a couple of days ago where I'd done my own recordings, and I used these, my HD 480 Classic from Sennheiser, to monitor things with. I've used these for years and years and years. And the story behind these actually starts with these, which are the Sennheiser HD 450s. Now, when I was 15 years old, my parents asked what I wanted for my birthday. I said I wanted a pair of headphones, good headphones, so I could listen to my personal stereo much better than the standard ones that came with it. And what I ended up with were these, so the HD 450s. And I absolutely loved them. They were way better than the standard headphones. Did I have a Sony? Sony was the first, was the Walkman. I didn't have the Walkman per se, but I had a Sony personal stereo. And I love these. Open back, very comfortable, very easy to listen to, pretty indestructible as well. Everything can be taken apart, so the headband will come off quite easily. Then you're left with the actual enclosure, if you like, and you can just continually keep stripping these down and stripping them down until you can actually change the individual driver inside. You can actually change the individual backing material, the foam. I mean, these have been changed several times. These headphones are quite a lot like Trigger's Broom, to be honest with you. Although they're the original drive units in there from when I was 15 years old, the head pad has been changed, and so have the ear pads several times. And one thing that also had happened, these came with an extremely long lead, and I was forever standing on the lead when I was changing a record or something like that back in my old bedroom. So I've bought and made a shorter lead for these. So I've had these for years. They're very good. They haven't got a huge amount of bass, they haven't got a huge amount of top extension. But in the days of listening to tape and personal stereos, which at that time, this was sort of before they realised they needed to limit the output on them because people were damaging their hearing. Those were ideal because they just didn't hurt your ears in any way. Which led me to buy these a few years later, which are the Sennheiser HD 480 Classics. Now, these are a good deal better than the red ones. These have slightly more LF, way better mid-range. They're much better in the mid-band. And again, they're pretty rolled off on the top. They'd be what most people call the Sennheiser veiled sound. So again, I've made my own cable for them because I just use these for monitoring purposes. Very comfortable. Now, anybody with a keen eye will spot occasionally on BBC interviews, the BBC often wear these, and they are the Radford variants, so they've got much different impedance loads, and the wire is taken over the headband. They look identical, they are slightly different. You couldn't use those on an iPhone or something like that. You just wouldn't get the output. But with these, they're not too bad. When I do use these on my iPhone, which I occasionally do, I use my Dragonfly DAC just to give it a little bit better output. So that's those. Now, what I tend to use quite often with my iPhone, if I'm about, are these, which are Sennheiser Momentums. Now, these are a different design. So the first pair are an open back headphone, and these are a closed back headphone. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both. So an open back headphone gives you a wider sound stage, so you've got more expanse to the music. The stereo imaging is really good, and you can get different positioning of instruments. The drawback is everybody else can hear you. With these, much more personal experience. It's unlikely anybody else would be able to hear you through these, but the soundstage is a little bit more closed in. But particularly with these, the LF, the bass response, is way better than my HD 480 Classics. And again, there's a plus and a minus with that initially you put these on and you're wowed by it. They're great to listen to. But if you were doing any monitoring or mixing, which I used to do, whether it be audio mixing or visual editing, these you can just use for hours and hours and hours and hours. When I did my radio show, I used these. They're very good. The other reason these were good for doing the radio show is I could actually hear my own voice back partially, not only through monitoring, I could hear it because they were open backed. With these, I can't really hear myself. So better LF, more dynamic, more punchy, very impressive to begin with, but these will fatigue your ears ever so slightly after lengthy periods of time. I wouldn't use these for monitoring. Which brings me on to something else. These. Now I don't often deviate away from Sennheiser, but these, the Meze Classics, 99 Classics, are beautiful. I mean, look at that. That's a wood finish around this cup and incredibly comfortable. They're just beautifully comfortable. Really soft padding on the ears, which to be honest with you, the Sennheisers are good for as well. That's the other difference as well, I forgot to mention that these are on ear, so they sit literally on your ears, as where both the Sennheisers and the Meze Classics are over ears. So you're really covering your ear totally and you're getting a very, very sealed in kind of environment. Now these are a bit of a conundrum to me because I do love Sennheisers, but the minute I put these on, they have the bass response of these, which is phenomenal. They're actually got probably even better bass response than the Momentums. Some of the mid-range characteristics of these, which are very good to listen to, and these are as well, but with better HF. So what you've got here, I've got a pair of headphones. Again, I probably wouldn't use them for monitoring, but for a more serious listening session, I would probably consider using these because they are impressive. Very, very, very good. I'm well impressed with these. Considering the price is only £10 difference. These, when they came out on the market, were 259, I think, 269. And I think these are either 269 or 279. So there's not an enormous amount of difference. They do a slightly different version of these, which is the plastic back. And I've been reliably informed that the plastic backed ones don't sound quite as warm as the wooden backed ones. And that's interesting because that's almost acting like an enclosure. So you're getting a different material enclosure is sonically improving or it's affecting the sonic characteristics of the playback. I can't compliment these enough on how comfortable they are. They've got fairly decent clamping force, which means they'll stay on your head well, mess your hair up as well, and so they won't fall off, but they're not so much pressure that they get uncomfortable. These have slightly less clamping force, and the pads are very comfortable, and these are dynamic. They are interesting to listen to, but they will fatigue your ears, in my opinion, or my ears, quicker than the Mezes will. As where these things, which I've had for years, you can barely feel that you're wearing them. I can hear myself quite clearly when I'm talking because they're open backed, but they'll never wow anybody. They won't. People often, if I say, have a listen to these, and they're just like, okay. But these are another thing that you can spend hours and hours and hours with, which I think is what you want. I really do. And I reckon these classics fall into a similar position. I think you could use these for quite a considerable time. I haven't yet. I have listened to them for about 3 hours, not continuously, but 3 hours of various different tracks, and I was well impressed. I think these are well worth the money, and I'm going to get myself a pair. So I've got to thank Signals Hi-Fi for lending me these. That was very good of them. And would I bin the Momentums? No, I wouldn't, because the Momentums are still ideal for what they really were intended for, which is wearing them in an urban environment out and about. So if I did, I don't know, have to wait for a bus, which is unlikely, but if I did have to wait for a bus or I was going for a stroll somewhere and I wanted a way better playback, I would wear these. Because what is usually used for walking about is something like this, which is Sennheiser again, and you've got wireless earbuds, which I don't mind. They're okay. They've got good sound for an earbud, but they're nothing like these. These are just far superior for that. So yeah, all in all, Meze Classics, or Meze Classics, however you pronounce it, I'm going to give them a massive thumbs up. Just some other interesting things quickly that I do hear people talk about. Now this is more important if you're walking about with a pair of headphones. So I said I'd made my own cables, which are these here. Now these would be no good for walking about. This is quite an audible cable. So when you're walking around, you can actually hear through the headphones the vibrations of the wire rattling around, traveling around there, and you can hear it. And that gets distracting. Now obviously I'm not walking about, I'm sitting still when I'm monitoring something. And the cable on the Classics is very quiet. I have to say that the cable on the Momentums is not bad. And as with the Momentums, you get this adjustable for using with an iPhone. You get that with the Classics as well. So should you wish to use them with an iPhone and you know, use the phone capabilities, so having a conversation, there's a microphone in there, you can adjust the volume up and down, skip tracks backwards and forwards. I think these are probably too nice for that, but you know, if you wanted to walk around and look cool and have a very decent sound, then these are the ones for you. Okay, that's just a little video on headphones. I don't use headphones an awful lot. I know some of my friends don't use headphones at all. They much prefer speakers, but I can't always monitor or listen back through speakers. So I would, if I was mixing something or recording something, it would probably be, in all honesty, these are better than the old 450s. But I've kept these purely for nostalgic reasons. I've had them since I was 15, and that's gotta be impressive. You know, that's credit to Sennheiser for making a virtually indestructible pair of headphones. I've not tried to break them, but these have had some heavy use, and apart from the pads wearing out, I think the headband pad is probably on its third one, and I've no idea how many ear pads I've changed. It's loads, because I have had over the years several pairs of different variants of these Classic 2s, 450s, 480s, 490s. They did a whole range of this sort of 400 series, where you could get them with blue, silver. I think I have them still somewhere actually. But yeah, fantastic old school pair of headphones. Remind me of old school pairs of speakers. They're a joy to listen to, easy going and pleasant. Okay guys, take care, speak to you soon.